are the Merrell MTL Astrums, and they're a very specialized winter trail running shoe. The MTL does not stand for Montreal like the good Canadian boy I am. I thought that's exactly what it meant. They actually stand for the Merrell Test Lab. And these were designed out of there, and they have some very unique qualities of these shoes that make them a specialized trail shoe for the winter. And I'm gonna go through those step by step. So first off, you can already notice some interesting design features of this, and mainly it's the elongated neoprene collar they have here to stop the snow from entering in. I'm gonna get to that last because we're gonna start from the bottom and work our way up. And I love this shoe, but I also hated this shoe, and I did not wear it as much as I should have or I wanted to, and I'll explain that reason at the end of this video. So first off is the Vibram triple density outsole. So this is what they say great for ice, snow, or slush, and even mud, as you can see on the exterior of this shoe. And this has a really soft material that it uses, rubber compound, that you did notice the difference between this shoe and a typical trail running shoe when you're on those colder winter runs. So on hard packed snow even, it was very good. The grip was superb. On ice, was it that great? I mean, is anything really that great on ice unless you have something that is going to be clipped on or strapped onto the shoe, more of something that will dig in. But this was more like a winter tire compared to your all season that you typically get with a trail running shoe. So definitely you could tell a difference. But if you're on those icy parts, I mean, it's still ice, you're gonna be sliding. But for all the other terrain, it was good. Now I use this mostly in the trails, but I also used it just walking the dog around town on those crummy days outside where there's some snow-covered conditions, or if I was going for a run in the side streets early in the morning and there was either melt the night before and a lot of runoff and freezing happening on the sidewalks and roads, or if the sidewalks and roads just weren't cleaned properly, which happens a lot on these side streets. So just going from different terrains, this was good. Now, if you are wearing it a lot just in the suburban type areas, and you are gonna be hitting the pavement between those bouts of covered ground, the compound's gonna wear down pretty quick. It is a very soft and it moves quite a bit. So you're gonna see this wearing out a lot quicker on those road conditions if you are than you typically would with a normal compound shoe. But once again, this is made for the trails and it's made for the snow covered conditions. Now the second thing is the midsole, which does have a rock plate built in there. I found it a little bit stiff, but I like that because a lot of the times you're running in uneven ground that is not solid. So when you're landing in an inch or two of snow and it packs down ever so slightly, you want something that's a little bit more firm and a little bit more responsive, so you can run accordingly in those. If you have something that is like a cloud you're running on, it's not going to be near as responsive and the feel to the ground isn't going to be as good. So I particularly like that. I like the feel of this, and I think it was very appropriate for what they're designing. The next feature I'd like to talk about, which I thought was awesome as well, was this synthetic upper material. So this is called the Merrell or M-Shield technology for the upper. And as you can see here, it's this single material that wraps around the entirety of the shoe with barely any seams. And it was great. It shed water really quick and any debris. I mean, nothing stuck to it. Snow just kind of melted off of it. So I thought it was designed really well. I like that. It's been durable. It hasn't broken down, and even the seam for the part on the toe cap here, which is a little bit thicker, the seams are great. They stay completely intact, so I was really pleased with that. Now that upper synthetic material actually transitions and it's taped to this neoprene elongated portion, heel or collar of the shoe, and it's also one piece with the tongue. So if you notice, when I show you this, there is no tongue. It's just a neoprene fabric that wraps up all the way around your foot. So it's basically like a booty you're putting your foot into here. What's great about this is there's no areas for heat to escape when you're running on those cold days. The technology they use for insulation is basically a heat reflective material, and it keeps the heat in. I felt these to be extremely warm, even with just typical cotton socks. My foot never sweat in them, but I felt them to never be uncomfortably cold. Now, even though this is not your traditional tongue on this shoe, it does have a little bit of cushioning through here. So it's neoprene is like a rubbery type material, but it's not near as cushioned as your typical trail running shoe. So one of my concerns with this lacing system, which is a neat little quick lace system, and it has a hook here so it doesn't bounce around, is I thought these laces would be digging through this thinner material on the tongue here and causing a little bit of friction and maybe even lace bite. I was pleasantly surprised that it didn't. I also like the fact that it had this embroidered fabric on here that kept each of the individual laces in place, so there was no sliding of those laces. And to be honest, I felt like this was snug enough where I didn't really have to tie the lace too tight or pull the lace too tight to cause any friction in the first place. So that is something you definitely don't have to worry about. And I have a very high instep, so I am susceptible to that a little bit in certain running shoes, but I didn't notice that whatsoever. So from here all the way down, this shoe was superb. For what it was designed for, I absolutely loved it. Now the big question is, why didn't I wear it near as much? Well, the reason is the top of this collar here has a embroidered piece, which is the seam on here, and it has zero stretch to it. Everything else to get your foot into would be really easy. The neoprene material itself has stretch, but the collar portion at the top barely moves. And I could not, for the life of me, get my foot in this shoe without rolling around on the ground. It was brutal. I honestly dreaded putting these on every time, and this is not an exaggeration. I know it sounds like I'm being a drama queen here, but that's not the case. Like, they were just brutal to put on. If you have skinny little feet, I envy you because you'll probably slide right into these, but this was brutal. Like, I'm the type of person, and some of you people, this probably resonates with you, is when you put a shoe on that has a gusseted tongue where it's tighter through there and doesn't have a lot of give, it's just a little bit harder to put on. If you find it tight to put on a shoe like that, if you put on this thing, you will hate it. So what I'm gonna do in the near future, because I wanna wear this shoe, I really liked it. I just hated having to struggle with it and fight with it each time I put it on. I'm gonna try to cut down the back of this material here so it just gives a little bit more space. Now, I didn't want to do that before I put this review out there. I contemplated and I was back and forth with it, but I didn't want to wreck the integrity of the shoe. I wanted to make sure it was holding up. And what I can say with these struggles is that these two loops here to help put the shoe on, especially the heel loop, I mean, I reefed on it and these seams are solid. I thought for sure that was gonna rip it, but I definitely pulled quite a bit with 2 fingers through there and it didn't break. So I was impressed with the integrity and durability of that heel loop. Now, one thing that I found that helped a little bit putting on, but it wasn't my go-to every single time, it didn't work 100% of the time, is if you rolled down the outer loop, sometimes that made it a little bit easier to put your foot into. The thing is with this neoprene material, it's so flimsy that if your heel gets caught on there and your top of your foot pushes it down, it's still brutal to get your foot in there. So overall, this shoe was awesome. I loved it, except for that one single feature. And it's funny how one feature like that can make or break a shoe for an individual, and it's all opinion based, right? So for you, it might slide in there with relative ease and it might not affect you at all. For me, I like this shoe better than the other shoe I'd be wearing in the winter, and it was more comfortable, it was better designed, but because it was harder to put on, I just honestly didn't wear it that much. So for next winter, when I'm wearing this, I'm definitely gonna make the cut back through here, and hopefully it goes on easier. And if it does, I'm gonna put way more miles in this shoe over the winter next year. So I hope that helps, guys. If you have any questions, leave a comment or a question down below and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. Take care.